So today we're talking about willpower, and we're going to be asking, are you having the wrong conversation about willpower? Because let's face it, we all try to use our willpower to do things in life or to make changes in life or to get things done. And invariably, our willpower eventually fails us. So since Adrien and I both come from the world of personal coaching here, and we need a really good, punchy personal coaching title, we can call this How to 10X Your Willpower with this simple willpower hack.
Right.
So are you ready to 10X your willpower today?
Well, funny enough, that could work. As far as I'm concerned, that title could work. I don't even think that would be too disingenuous. I think that, I was reflecting, I think I mentioned this to you as we were just kind of warming up here, that, we are coming into the time period of the year where people are starting to realize that maybe they're not going to stick to their New Year's resolution. So this might be a good, because how do we usually do that, right, David? With some sense, we think we're going to willpower our way through it, right? We're going to do this. I really want to make this change. I really want to get this thing done. And then not even a month later, we're starting to notice, right, a dwindling of.
It's not a month in. It's like an hour and a half, right?
Right.
It's like
that's
right?
tomorrow or the next day. Yeah. I think part of what's confusing about this for most people too is the fact that willpower is so highly regarded in our society. I really do think that's, you know what I mean? And I don't want to get too off the track here, but it's just that makes it, because it just seems like that's the thing that you're supposed to do, and that's the thing that's supposed to work.
Yep.
But then you find out that, and you find out by experience, through your own personal experience, that it doesn't actually work that great most of the time. But because society kind of seems to constantly reinforce that, we think there's something wrong with us. And I'm not sure. So, you see what I mean? I'm not sure it's something wrong with us as much as there's something wrong with that idea.
I really think that it starts with the word willpower itself. And so, as I like to do sometimes, I looked up the definition of the word willpower, and it really helps. And so here's what it said. Willpower: control exerted to do something or restrain impulses. So, control exerted. Right?
I'm exhausted already, David.
Yeah, right? Control exerted to restrain. Right? Restraining, like that requires force, right?
Yeah.
This kind of shows us the problem with willpower.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, I want to use your terms that you say. It's an expensive resource. I feel like you say that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like the main issue with willpower isn't that people have some amount of it that they can put there for a moment. It's like, how long is that moment?
Yeah.
Right? The main issue with willpower is duration.
Exactly.
And, some people have really amazing willpower.
They do. That's
They
true.
do. I've watched people exert control and restraint for years over certain things.
Sure.
And they're really impressive. I'm not that person, but I've watched them do this thing, right?
By the way, before we go off onto where I know we're going, because I know we feel a very similar way here, willpower is important. So whatever we're about to say, coming up here, it isn't to say that you don't need willpower at all. I mean, there's time to apply willpower. But if that's your only tool, it's gonna break.
Yeah.
It's gonna break.
Well, give it to us. Tell us. And again, Adrien and I are very big fans of these small, subtle shifts.
That's what I was
that can
just gonna
change
say,
everything.
Yeah. Right. Nuance.
Yeah.
Nuance. Is everything, right? Well, this is a similar sort of nuance here from willpower to willingness. Though they sound very similar, they're almost different things.
Well, I looked up the definition of willingness as well.
Lay it on me, baby.
So check this out.
All right.
Willingness: done or accepted by choice or without reluctance. And so what I really like about this willingness thing is it's not about exerting control. There's no outward energy required from you. It's just the removal of reluctance.
I love that.
right? And I like this, done or accepted by choice. You want to make a diet change. Are you going to make yourself do the change, or are you going to accept the change? What the two words have in common, I think, and one of the superpowers of anything in life is delayed gratification. Right? Like when it said restraining impulses, willpower is restraining impulses, right? You're delaying gratification. But in willpower, you're delaying gratification by forcing yourself, by restraining yourself not to act. Right? So you've set up a situation where you're at war with yourself. And so you're burning energy from both ends. So it's going to go fast. In willingness, you're delaying gratification just by allowing the discomfort of not being gratified yet to remain. You know, knowing that it's not stopping any gratification, it's just delaying it. And like that's why I like delayed gratification. It's not like you're never going to have any gratification.
Sure, yeah.
It's just wait a moment first.
Right.
If you try to stop the feeling, or if you try to stop yourself from wanting it, you're going to lose against yourself, right? But if I allow it, it kind of takes away its power.
That's one of my favorite words is allowing. That's a beautiful...
It's so much easier, and it can be maintained so much longer.
Sure.
Which changes duration. How long you can keep it.
Sure.
Right? How long you can keep it going, I think.
The other thing another danger to willpower is the duration thing. But what happens is because you can't endure it, you can't hold it long enough, you have the sensation of failure a lot, which can be very dangerous.
What a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the really dangerous things about exerting willpower all the time, because then this is something that happened for me, you'll start to feel like a failure because you can't do it forever. Now, when it comes to me, some of this, let's talk about something really nuanced, like my spiritual life, right? I have these goals or these things that I'd like to accomplish inside myself. And if I'm trying to exert willpower, I fail. I do fail. It's part of the learning process, right? You fall off the bike, right, David? And so then you feel like a failure. If I'm exerting willingness, it's completely different. I feel myself fall off the bike, I see it, and I revisit my willingness, and that just means get back on the bike. But it's much more gentle. It's not, oh, God, I failed, and I don't know if I can do that. You see what I'm trying to say? To me, the biggest thing is an energetic quality to it. Like they're very different.
I love that you said that. That's beautiful. And the energetic quality, because we know that willpower is you're in a fight against yourself. So there's conflict. And in conflict turns everything into black and white, good guys, bad guys, right and wrong. And therefore, if you're in a fight and you lose, you're the bad guy.
You're the loser.
You're wrong. You're bad. Right? And if you're just willing to just accept, just to take on the load of whatever the stress is or the change, then you're just not in the mindset of black and white judgments. So even if it doesn't quite work out, you're just not in a mindset that makes you think, I lost, I failed.
Right.
Yeah.
You're more in the mindset of I'm learning.
Yeah, I'm learning. Or I lasted longer than I did last time at delaying gratification. Right? I'm making improvements. Oh, I was able to sit here and just take on the discomfort of this change or this adaptation I'm trying to make a little more.
Or I didn't.
I didn't
do it last any longer.
Try again. Yeah.
That's why it's like you can't lose. That's what I found.
Yeah. And once you get a taste for that, it's like, okay, you're so much more eager and willing to take on the load at the beginning because you understand that is the path to using the least amount of your energy. That is the path to the most peace, right? And prosperity.
That's a good, I love that you made that point too, right? Because in the moment, it feels like it's more energy in a way. Right, because you have to sit through something maybe more, or you have It's a little more mushy. It's not the black and white, but in the long run, in the long term, and it doesn't even have to be that long usually, but you'll find that it is shorter and less energy involved in that. And the energy is different, as I keep pointing out too. I like that you pointed that out, though. Like it is a better solution in the long term, almost always. It's more enjoyable in a certain way too. And not only is it more enjoyable for yourself, but it's more enjoyable for the people around you. Because I don't know if you know this about me, but I mean, I think you do. I am kind of okay at willpower, right? I mean, I've muscled my way through a lot of things.
I admire it in you.
back in the day especially, right? So I would push. That's not always that. If you think about that pushing and forcing energy, that the flavor of it, right? It's not always fun to be around, especially when that person's close to you, like my wife, as an example, right? But when I switched from using willpower all the time to more willingness, it shifted my whole entire energy a lot. And I was more enjoyable to be around. I know she's mentioned it before, right? Like, I'm just talking about this, is a very subtle nuance, but there's something about that is, again, there's longevity in that. Like in other words, relationships last longer, things go easier, smoother,
And sometimes, the word willingness sounds really open and almost flowery or something, but there's
that.
another word. No, I know, Mr. Flowers.
Go ahead.
Captain Flowers. But even if somebody can't manage to think of something like willingness, and this is an opportunity for growth, if they can't get there,
sure.
I just say, because this is what worked for me, just resign yourself to the experience for a moment. I really like resignation. It's just like this is going to be uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah, another word is acceptance, right? Accept it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I resign, accept, and I think that that's kind of a type of willingness too. If you can't get into like willingness where it's you're really feeling all high-minded, but just resigning yourself, not giving up. That doesn't mean giving up. It just means
right.
It is what it is, and I'm going to walk through it. Right. And it's almost like you can drop your shoulders and let down your guard a little bit. And use half the energy you were using before trying to stop these feelings.
Right.
Trying to defeat them. It's like, that's not going to happen.
To go back up, when the person's saying, yeah, I'm going to go on that diet plan, but I'm just still celebrating New Year's, and I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to have that, and I'll do that tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to start it next week. There's probably, now maybe not, but more than likely, actually an underlying lack of willingness to do it right from the beginning. Because if they really wanted to give that up, they would be doing it right then, more than likely. Now, there's always an exception to that rule, but I believe, like when I work with somebody on anything, actually it doesn't really matter whether it's a spiritual thing, like trying to get to a different place in their inner world, or it's their marriage or whatever, is to contact that willingness. Like, you got to check. You might think you want something that you don't even, right? Like, you have to really look at that. That's the first step, is to work on willingness. If you find that you're willing, and there's no perfection here. We never know 100%. Well, sometimes, I guess, but very rarely, right? Right? But commitment is the next thing that happens quite naturally. You get a sense of commitment. Like, you're not giving up. You might even fail for a minute, but then you come back and re-experience your willingness, reinvestigate your willingness, and then the commitment you know what I mean? That's another way to, because you do need to use willpower, right? I'm kind of getting into how-to here a little bit, right? You do need willpower, but the duration does end. And one of the ways to kick that back into its full energy, sort of, is to revisit your willingness. Like, why is it?
I think about all of these movies, and you see it played out in all the archetypes and all the superhero movies and stuff. If you watch a Star Wars or something, what are they teaching the Jedi to do? It's not to get the anger and the conflict. That's the dark side, right? The Jedi, what do? They're always sitting back, search your feelings, close your eyes, feel what's there. They drop their shoulders, they take a deep breath, and that's where their power comes from. It seems really counterintuitive, but there's this repeating lesson in all of these movies, but we do somehow, even though it seems counterintuitive, we still believe it when we see it on screen, right? We know there's truth there. We may not be able to do the math to figure out why that's true, even though it's counterintuitive, but we still know it's true.
We don't trust it. I don't think.
point.
And let me just say this, because I think you're pointing out beautiful things. And we don't trust it because we don't actually try it that much. Right?
Trust requires proof.
Yes. And you know, the funny thing is, it's just like anything else, too. That takes time. So trying this willingness or acceptance or resignation, all these different things we've talked about, I mean, this is a process. So is willpower, right? Because the same thing can happen with willpower. Again, though, you're feeling like a failure at the end of that one. Whereas with the willingness, you're like, you know what? Okay, I saw it, I tried it. Like you said, maybe I waited a little bit longer. You know, like there is a process to this stuff. And, you know, that's the thing, too. We're in that losing mindset a lot of times. So in other words, we fail and we're a failure. But no, that's not, you know, like that's just part of the process. We all know this, but it's important to remember, you know, as we're going through it.
And you can take it little steps at a time. Like when I was changing the food thing, I'm like, well, I was going into fasting. Okay, I'm usually used to eating at 8. Well, today I'll eat at 9. Today I'll eat at 10. Today I'll eat at 10:30. Today I'll eat at 11, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I can do this thing that I couldn't force myself to do before.
Yeah.
But I just allowed myself to be willing to delay gratification for a tiny bit longer each day. And it kind of became a game, like where,
I love that.
any success was still a success.
That's right.
Right?
And even finding that you're still willing is a form of success.
I
When
agree.
you get back on the bike. Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, the punchline of this whole thing, I mean, the subtle shift that is the ultimate life hack, the ultimate willpower hack that
will
can 10x your willpower. 10x your willpower. Is just don't think of it as willpower.
Yeah.
Just this slight mind shift changes. It's not willpower, it's willingness. And that's it. That mindset carries with it a lot more power. You know, it carries with it power, not force.
That's it.
And
check out
there's
that
another
video.
conversation we had. Yeah, check out that conversation. If you've enjoyed this, go check out our one on power versus force. Because, man, subtle shifts change everything.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
And hey, I want to say, if you enjoy these conversations, to please click the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. They mean the world to us. I love those comments so much. I know David feels the same way. It helps us revisit our willingness to show up here every week and do these talks, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It helps.
All right, thank you.
All right, my friends.
All right,
Till next one.
time.